We first met in 2016 when you were our Meritorious Service Award winner. Our alumni and the college is so proud of you and the work you do, and it's so in line with the Christian Brothers mission of LaSallian education, and it was really great to meet you at that time, and we appreciate you being here today with us to help our alumni through this situation too. This is our fifth event in our first virtual series, so we're gonna have to roll out another one. We didn't know in the beginning how long it was gonna go.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep rolling in today now.
All the support. I mean, it's just so complex. Everyone, I love the different sessions you've done, and it's just a big need for us to connect. Even though we can't physically connect in this time as much, we had this social distancing, but it's really important for us to connect inward as well as our community, the greater community. So it was awesome back then to spend time with you and meet the team, as well as just the honor of that award. And I'm grateful to be here to be able to support some mindfulness practices for the team, for the community.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to make sure everybody that's joining us as they're getting on now knows that they can also support the Mindful Life Project. The email that everyone got with the event has the link to your guys' website in it. It's on our website. You can also go directly to mindfullifeproject.org and learn about ways that you can support JG and his team's work right here in the Bay Area. You guys are local in Richmond.
Yeah, we're based out of Richmond, but more and more spread around. So we have schools in Antioch this year, Concord, Bay Point, Crockett, Rodeo, Oakland. So we have 9 cities, but we're really spread through Contra Costa County, which is Gale territory.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Totally.
It's been beautiful to see the growing and spreading of the work across different schools and districts.
That's fantastic. And we have so many St. Mary's teachers in our Bay Area schools, teachers and counselors and administrators. So I'm sure you run into Gales all the time.
Yep, most definitely. It's always a pleasure. I just saw Lindsay Lopez the other day at Antioch
awesome.
Middle, and I was like, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a small world in schools.
Doing.
With the Gales, and I'm born and raised in Cocoa County, so
yeah.
I appreciate Contra Costa. All right, well, I think we've got people hopping on now, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. My name is Courtney. I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement at St. Mary's, and we're so glad that you're joining us for our 5th event in our first round of virtual events to get you through quarantine. We're excited to be highlighting some of our incredible Gales and the work that they do to bring you light entertainment all the way to mindfulness and financial stability in these crazy times. We will start our 2nd round of events next week and launch those through May, and as long as we need to until we can meet in person again. Although I'm sure you're finding too, JG, that we will probably be doing a lot more virtual stuff moving forward forever after this.
Yeah.
Because now we kind of have a way to reach people without those distance barriers that we used to let keep us apart. So we're going everywhere now. JG Larochette is a class of 2002 graduate. Founder and director of the Mindful Life Project, which you started in May of 2012.
Correct.
I believe, after working with youth in Richmond, California for over a decade as a coach, community advocate, and teacher. So we are so honored to have you here with us today. I want to remind everyone that you can submit questions for JG through the session, through the chat option. And this video will also be available ongoing, both on all of our platforms and our YouTube channel as well. So with that, I am going to disappear, JG, and let you take over. Thanks again. And don't forget, everybody, if you, when you're done with this session, please go to the mindfullifeproject.org and look at ways that you can support JG and his team's work in the community, in our schools, for mindfulness. So thank you so much. With that, I'm going to disappear and let you go.
Thanks so much, Courtney. Such an honor, and thanks for having me. Gale alum, it's an honor to be here with you. I see Teresa Mejia Gutierrez works at Meadow Homes, one of our partner schools. Thank you so much. I'm excited to provide some mindfulness training today. I've been feeling a lot of these emotions and thoughts, and the experience of kind of COVID-19 is so complex, right? It's causing so much problems beyond even words. And I know for myself that these emotions and these thoughts oftentimes connect with my negative bias, right? As human beings, we're wired for survival. And in that wiring, we're always assessing and processing information to say if we're safe or not. And mindfulness is a practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment, right? Which sounds simple, but is so challenging because we know that the mind loves to think, and it loves to create thoughts about the future, which can cause anxiousness, nervousness, overwhelm, and it often goes into the past and can ruminate in some experiences that weren't so pleasant and were harmful. And so this practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment, specifically that non-judgment piece, is this radical approach to living in the here and now, where we can be with our experiences without pushing them away. Personally, I was very good at avoiding, neglecting, resisting, pushing away those strong emotions and feelings and experiences, which ended up really taking over my life and kind of that snowball effect to the point where stress, anxiety, and depression was overriding my day-to-day experience. And so mindfulness has transformed my life, and it's an honor to bring this to the session today. When we talk about mindfulness practices, which we're going to do today, they're kind of the playing the musical instrument over and over and over again. So when we do perform, we're ready for that performance. Or that playing a sport and practicing and practicing. So when we get to the actual game, we're really able to engage. What we want to do is cultivate present moment awareness, but that can be harder than anything a lot of times. And when we find it to be hard, there's certain skills, the mindful skills that we call them as students, that can get us back to the present moment. A little bit of brain science before going into the practice. With that wiring for survival, the brain has this part, we're going to use the hand as a model, the amygdala. In the back of the brain, at the very bottom, it's a reptilian part of the brain. That amygdala is our survival mechanism. It's our alarm system. Right back there, it's stimulating activity so that if there's danger, we're able to go into fight, flight, freeze to survive that experience. Say it's a car coming fast at us, it's going to send that cortisol, adrenaline, and the amygdala is going to act, and it's going to make us stronger, faster, and more able to assess danger and get away from it. However, what happens is that thoughts and emotions can trigger the amygdala just like that car that's coming fast. Now, if you wrap that nice hand right there into a full brain, the prefrontal cortex is where we have higher level thinking. We have self-regulation. We pay attention. We can have interpersonal connection. All that makes us human is happening in that prefrontal cortex. When we practice mindfulness, oftentimes what we're doing is we're rewiring the brain. The brain often can get stuck because of our desire to be in survival mode, get stuck and amplified in that amygdala action. And the prefrontal cortex actually shrinks and atrophies. And so that's what happens with stress and overwhelm. The prefrontal cortex starts to wean and shift down. The amygdala starts becoming overactive and hijacks the brain. And so mindfulness, 8 minutes of practice a day, research has shown, is actually changing the brain architecture, increasing activity in the prefrontal cortex, decreasing activity in the amygdala, and actually changing the gray matter of the brain and density. So we know now that we can change the architecture of the brain through a lifetime. And we're going to be doing that today by doing a mindful practice, a mindful sit as we call it. We're going to focus on two things. We're going to bring awareness to our breath and sounds and a little bit of body awareness. When we're guiding our awareness there, inevitably we're going to get distracted, right? We're going to have thoughts about what we have to do later. We're going to think of something that happened earlier in the day. We might have an emotion take over. Some sound will take us away. The key part of mindfulness is when we have that distraction, when the mind wanders to the future or goes into the past, we notice it, we welcome it, we don't judge it, and we just try again to redirect our attention to the present moment. Okay, so that's really the beauty of the practice. You can't do it wrong. And what we know is the future's gone, you can't change it. The future hasn't happened yet. The past is gone, you can't change it. All we have is the here and now. So when we notice that we're here, we can really activate that prefrontal cortex. So let's get into some practice. So we're going to do a mindful sit. Just like I said, the mindfulness and stillness practice is engaging our ability to be present and activate that prefrontal cortex. And then really giving us those skills that when we feel emotionally triggered or we're overwhelmed with our thoughts, that we can use those skills to come back, not into that rabbit hole and storyline of the negative potential things that might happen. So we're gonna do our mindful sit. Put your feet flat on the floor. However you're sitting, there's nothing special you have to do. Allow your sit bones and your body to welcome itself and let gravity pull us down. Place your hands wherever it feels comfortable on your lap or together. And then just notice the body sitting. We're gonna do mental training, just like we do exercise for the body. We're gonna train the mind to connect with the body and the heart. So bring stillness into the full body. Let the eyes gently close so we can really go inward. If we have our eyes open, we'll get distracted easier. So just let the eyes close, if possible, or soft gaze below you. And I'll start with the sound of the bell. Just stay with the sound as long as you can. Just stay with the sound of the bell. Other sounds will come, thoughts will come. Just come back to that sound. And just notice the quality of attention if you're able to stay with those three sounds, or if you got distracted. Mindfulness is the awareness of the present moment, covered by a blanket of compassion and care. So if we get distracted, there's no judgment, there's no need to have an opinion about it. There's a compassionate lens of, oh, distracted, I'm coming back again. Let's begin by noticing our contact points, our feet on the floor, maybe pulsations, tingling, or temperature. Notice your sit bones and your hamstrings in contact with the chair or the cushion or the couch. And bring awareness to your hands again. And just notice any tingling or sensations at your fingertips. And now we're going to bring awareness, specifically and on purpose, one moment at a time, to sounds. We'll hear sounds in the room that we're in. Maybe sounds in other rooms in the place we're at. As we scope mindful listening out, we'll start noticing sounds outside. And we just bring awareness to sounds, let them arise into our ears, and when we notice them fade away, then another sound can grab our awareness. Inevitably, our mind will start thinking. That's not a problem. We're not trying to clear the mind. We're just noticing. Oh, thinking, and then gently redirecting attention to the next sound. Start making little mental notes, like your little sticky notes, little post-it notes of the sounds you hear. And just notice if you can just hear it as a sound without the need to have an opinion or story or narrative that goes with the sound. And now we're going to let sound awareness go in the background. It's going to be there, right? Sounds will still be around. But now we're going to focus our attention on the breath. It's the foundational practice of mindfulness because everything else is impermanent. It comes and goes, sounds, feelings, emotions, body sensations. They'll come and go like clouds in the sky, but the breath is always in the here and now. Just cultivating that awareness that often can be escaping us in autopilot in the thinking of the future or the past. So bring awareness to the breath. No need to change the breath, just notice it in its natural state. Maybe notice the belly rise with the inhale. Pause in between, and as the exhale happens, you feel it fall. Or bring a real curiosity to the present moment, specifically and strategically on our mindful skills. And this time it's mindful breathing. So just notice the breath as it is, and then see how each breath is a little different. There's no two breaths that are exactly the same, just like there's no two moments that are exactly the same. We're really curious about that. How is this experience, this breath, a little bit different than the next or the last? Maybe the breath is stronger in your chest and you feel the expansion of the chest on the inhale and the fall and contraction on the exhale. Just tuning in to this breath as an access point to the present moment. And then shift awareness to your nose even. The cooler air on the inhale, the warmer air on the exhale. And just for one more minute, we're going to focus attention on the breath. And notice any patterns of distraction. Maybe it's while you breathe in, there's that little pause, and you were following the inhale, but then you had thoughts about what you have to do a little later today. Or an emotion arose and took you away. Or some physical sensation, some ache or pain or discomfort. Mindfulness is about full acceptance of whatever is arising in us in this moment. Whatever we're noticing of the mind, the body, and the heart, we welcome it. We don't resist, push away. We gently, with care and compassion, allow it to be as it is without needing it to be anything different. How's this breath? Or this breath? And if it's hard to follow the breath, that's okay, that's normal, right? Mental training is like physical training. You can't just get up off the couch after 6 months and expect to be in shape. The same thing happens here. We've been living without knowing, many of us, that the mind needs training, and that's what we're doing here. Training it to be in the present moment. So we're going to close the practice here shortly, but before that, a lot of our stress and overwhelm gets stored in our body. So body awareness can help us alleviate that stress and tension. Just quickly, just notice your feet, any tightness or looseness, any sensations. Notice your legs, right leg, left leg, any areas that are uncomfortable or have some discomfort in any way. And bring awareness to your torso. Specifically, we check into the belly. Right? We tighten, we contract with physical and mental suffering. We contract, we resist, and it causes more pain and more suffering. So here we are, just noticing. Oh, I'm tight. I'm sore. I'm uncomfortable. I welcome it. I notice it, and I just let it be. Bring awareness now to your chest, to your shoulders, to your neck, to your jaw, to your cheeks, to your lips. We often are exhausted more from mental exhaustion, not physical. And areas we hold a lot of mental stress is in our jaw. Relax the jaw. In our eyes, the temples, and the forehead. Just notice a dissolving, a looseness. And now ring the bell to close practice. Just try to stay with the sound of the bell from the beginning to the end and everywhere in between. If we get distracted, just gently come back to the sound. And then letting the body kind of come out of the practice, wiggling toes, fingers, rolling the shoulders, letting the eyes flutter open, and just notice what's changed in those 10 minutes. How has our experience of this beingness changed, right? How's the mind? Is it a little calmer? How's the body? Is it a little looser? How's the heart space? A little more peaceful? Or maybe the opposite. And what's beautiful about this practice of mindfulness is that whatever we encounter, if it's the suffering of the mind or the body or the heart, we actually change it with radical acceptance that it's what it needs to be, and I can be with it with compassion and care instead of resisting and pushing away, which causes more suffering, right? So just notice, how's the body feel? How's the heart feel? How's the mind feel? And I would love to be able to see everyone's faces, but unfortunately I can't as I'm doing this. So just if you have any questions or any thoughts that came up during practice, please use the chat. And I'm here for Q&A for a few more minutes, and just a lot of gratitude to practice with you all. I know that mindfulness is something that we hear a lot about in the society, right? We provide this to over 10,000 students in 22 schools, and we hear about mindfulness growing in a lot of places, but in this time during COVID-19, we might not be able to externally connect as much, but we should be really focusing on internally connecting. This internal connection that I used to have was one where I didn't really welcome or accept myself in a lot of ways, right? All the layers of conditioning led to me having these narratives and stories and these judgments. And it's really about finding refuge within ourselves, within our being. So I hope it helped in any way possible. And again, I'm here for some Q&A. If you have any questions or comments, you can join us on the Zoom chat. Hey,
Thank
Courtney.
you so much, JG. We'll give people a couple more moments to ask questions if they have any. What advice do you give people right now when they're feeling high anxiety and uncertainty in how to kind of deal with this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that has to be kind of a cultivation of knowing that it too shall pass, but also knowing that while we have these emotions and thoughts, that's a normal wiring for us to be assessing, are we going to survive, right? And that's that natural state of the mind to always be processing information. And right now, we're in a pandemic, something that hasn't happened in many generations, right? And on top of that, we have all the media that also is another aspect that can cause more stress, and what stories are being told and all that stuff. So my main thing is making sure that self-care is not something that's pushed aside, especially when we're overwhelmed. So we have our mindfulness practices on our YouTube channel, Mindful Life Project TV, for anyone who wants to join and just do practices like that. I think the biggest thing is whatever thoughts we're having, they're not a problem. Whatever emotions we're feeling, they're not a problem. There's something that we should welcome and accept and notice, but not attach to. And that's the hardest part, right? We attach to the negative because there's something there that we're trying to figure out, are we still safe? And so the thoughts can happen without us being attached to them, and we just watch them and notice them. The emotions can arise, and we need to be able to connect with them so we're not avoiding and causing more damage.
Great. We did get a question.
I see a question. Is there a recommended amount of time we should do this a day? Thanks, Teresa. I think the key that the research has shown that if we want to change the architecture of the brain, specifically to go away from kind of that survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, that 8 to 10 minutes a day is the minimum, right, of practice. But again, being in the present moment could look like a lot of different things, right? The scientific research shows that the stillness practice allows us to be more present when we are eating, right? When we're walking, when we're in communication, we're more present in everything we do in our daily experience. So there's a recommendation. And I would just say that to do it 8 to 10 minutes a day over 6 to 8 weeks does lead to increased mood, increased sleep, decreased stress, and decreased symptoms of depression, anxiety, because what we're doing is we're rewiring the brain to be in optimal, healthy functioning versus oftentimes we're in a stress mode, right? In our culture, if you're not stressed out, something's wrong with you. So my recommendation is always to dedicate yourself to wellness. This is one option. Wellness of the mind, wellness of the body, wellness of the heart. And I hope this was helpful.
JG, what's the difference between mindfulness and meditation?
It's a great question. So mindfulness is a form of meditation. There's so many different kinds of meditation. practices, many of which are also scientifically proven to be beneficial. Contemplative practices are an origin in mindfulness, right? So prayer to meditation. Mindfulness comes from thousands of years of lineage of Vipassana meditation. And in the 1970s came into our healthcare system as mindfulness, right? Where it's this one point awareness, paying attention on purpose without judgment with these main skills of practice, breath, sound, body, emotions, thoughts, heart, and thinking in terms of how do we orient to the present moment. So it's one form of meditation.
Great, thank you. All right, well, I think, we got another one.
I love it. I see Frank saying, as someone who's practiced for a while, layered many readings, many different authors, retreats, and overall meditation practice. That's awesome. And I do recommend, there's some great places. We have East Bay Meditation Center doing amazing work. Spirit Rock does amazing work. If you ever can do a retreat, it's life transforming. Basically, you're able to just tune in to your lived experience through what we are as human beings, right? I think a lot of times the research shows that 80% of hospital visits are caused by stress in the US, and that most of us stress is over worried about the future or stuck in some trauma of the past. And so here we are, and why it's been growing, mindfulness is growing so much in the West right now, is because we've seen we need a cultural shift, right? When we talk about, you said the Christian Brothers and what, the mission of what we're doing of being of service, is that being of service is huge, but if we don't serve ourselves first, we can't be fully of service to others, right? And so being able to get into community and do retreats and practice and read is amazing. And I think the starting place, I see the question is around how to give people a starting place. It has to be relevant, right? I think that for when we do it with young people, or I train teachers, or I'm working with anyone, it has to be relevant. So for me personally, it's like, okay, do you love the Golden State Warriors when you're talking to middle school kids? Oh, you do? Well, guess what? Mindfulness is one of their key traits and one of their values. And so Steph Curry practices mindfulness, right? So it's really about relevance. I think that trying to get people quick access to like the brain science and how important it is for our neurobiology, for our physiology to really do these practices. I think science is always a really helpful part to it. And there's all kinds of apps out there these days that can be helpful too. So Headspace, we have an app for Mindful Life Project for our students and families, bilingual, Insight Timer. So sometimes it's those technology gadgets that can get people in the doorway of the practice, and then they dive in further. Great.
JG, thank you again. When we can meet in person, I will be bringing you a big thank you swag box of Gale gear.
Okay, cool.
Until then, you have my verbal thanks so much for being here and sharing with us. As a reminder to everyone, just one more time, don't forget to go to mindfullifeproject.org, see the resources that are available to you to start your own practice, as well as support the work that JG and his team are doing all over the state and here in the Bay Area with our youth in our schools, and support the work. So thank you so much. Great to see you, JG. Good luck, and keep doing all the great stuff you're doing.
Courtney, you're amazing. Grateful for the alumni team and for everybody on there, and just a lot of gratitude from my side, and sending a lot of heartfulness, as we say, a lot of well wishes, heartful compassion to you all. And I hope you all take care of yourselves and be well.